So going back to our landing page example, if you have one page, a single page on your website,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to have like an about us section. So like, who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? It needs to have a contact us section. How do I get in touch with you? Like, what is the thing that you're offering here? Is it a consultation? Is it a discovery call? Is it a free ebook? Is it a, email newsletter? Like, how can people sign up, schedule, book, buy that types of section?
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome back. So in today's episode, we are diving deep into a topic that is a game changer for entrepreneurs on a budget. And we're talking all about building and managing your business website on a budget. Joining us today to lead the conversation is a true expert in this field, Catherine Smith. Catherine is the founder of Walton Birch, a consulting firm that specializes in helping entrepreneurs show up credibly and professionally online. With a wealth of knowledge and experience, she has helped numerous small businesses and entrepreneurs launch and grow their businesses. So in this conversation, Catherine will be sharing practical advice, cost-saving strategies, and valuable insights on how to build and manage a business website without breaking the bank. We'll be exploring affordable website building platforms, free or low-cost design resources, and techniques for website maintenance and updates. Catherine will also dive into the importance of creating a professional and polished online presence, as well as effective e-commerce strategies. So whether you're just starting out and need guidance on building a website from scratch, or you're looking for ways to enhance your existing online presence on a budget, this episode has you covered. Catherine's expertise and passion for supporting underestimated founders makes her the perfect guest to shed light on this important topic. So grab your notepads and get ready to take some valuable insights from this conversation. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned business owner, the tips and strategies shared today will empower you to establish a compelling online presence without breaking the bank. So without further ado, let's dive in. Before we dive into today's topic, I always like to give an intro on who I'm speaking with. So if you could share with my audience a little bit about yourself, what is it that you do? How did you get where you are today in your business?
Sure. My name is Catherine Smith. I am the founder of Walton Birch and the co-founder of Black Lady Business School, both based here in Atlanta, Georgia. I never planned on being an entrepreneur. And in 2019, I took what I thought was a temporary break from corporate America, and not knowing that the COVID pandemic was going to hit 6 months later. And so I got a crash course in entrepreneurship in those first couple of years. But the change was exactly what I needed. And, I'm just really dedicated to entrepreneurship now. So part of what has kept me here is being able to help people and impact people's businesses firsthand and directly. And so I really just love working with small businesses and entrepreneurs to help them be successful in business.
Love that. And now I was so curious. I love your business name. So what inspired the business name?
So what had happened was when I left corporate America. So mind you, I spent about 10 years in corporate America prior to becoming an entrepreneur. And my MBA is in business analytics. And so I very much thought that Walton Birch was going to be a marketing research firm, thinking about maybe like Deloitte or EY, like those big firm names. And I really wanted a name that was kind of consistent with that or gave people the same kind of feeling as those names would give. And so, those I love Mad Libs where you just it says, take your childhood pet's name and your street name or something like that and put it together. I generated a whole bunch of names and ran them by my family. And when I said, hey, what do you think about Walton Birch? My brother said, it sounds like a white guy. And I was like, that's it. That's the one.
No, why not?
I mean, it worked.
Right. I love the name. It does sound so like official.
It sounds like a white guy. People still ask me to speak to Walton Birch. And so, when I started, I pivoted less than a year into business back into the web development space, but I just kept the name and it works. And I feel like it's very much a part of the brand. And I've kind of changed what that brand looks like. So it's not so corporate. It's a little more authentic to who I am, but I kept the name. So
love it. Okay. And speaking of websites, so today's discussion is all about building and managing your business website on a budget, which is something that you help entrepreneurs and business owners do. So I first want to talk about the importance of this in building a budget-friendly website, because entrepreneurs are just starting out, or they might be on a limited budget. You still need that website. So as the founder of Walton Birch, you specialize in helping entrepreneurs show up credibly and professionally online. Why do you think building and manage a business website on a budget is such a critical topic, especially for new and first generation entrepreneurs?
That's a great question. And I think there are two parts to that question. So part of it is why is building a website important? And then another part is why is building it on a budget important? And I'll answer both of those. So I think having a business website is critical to telling your story the way that you want it to be told. So I've heard people say, I'm not online. I don't have social media profiles. I don't have anything like that. And so when you search for those people online, either nothing comes up or things that they've been kind of vicariously included in have come up. Like if someone puts you in their PTA newsletter, your name will come up for that, right? So it's very difficult for you to say, oh, I'm not going to be online at all, and to not be online at all because everybody else is online. And so having a website really allows you to control the story that is told about you and your brand specifically. So for your business or your brand, it allows you to tell the story of your business and your brand the way that you want it to be told. So your business is not being described through someone else's lens. Your business is not being described through, disgruntled people or through people that are, basically copying your products or services and trying to sell them as well. So it gives you some ownership over the story that gets told about your business. So that's why having one is important. And why doing so on a budget is important is in the very first year, so much changes. And I can personally attest to that. Like I went through a complete brand overhaul in the first year. And granted, I kept the name for my business, but the branding changed. And so, if I had spent $10,000 on a website, that would, not have been a really great investment, especially if I had to change it less than a year later. So I think when you're just starting out, unless you've been operating informally under that brand or, for several years or several months, I think that keeping the budget on the website low or kind of in check will definitely help when those inevitable pivots happen in those first couple of years of business.
Yes, I definitely agree. And something that you mentioned is the importance of even just having a website. And so many times I see where people who have that social media presence, they don't spend as much time on having even just a landing page or a website. They're like, I just need I won't say a landing page. They might have something that leads to a sales page somewhere, but not necessarily a home for their website. What would you say about that? And do you think that that's okay?
A landing page versus a full website?
Yes.
So absolutely. So if you had a choice, so if it's not be online at all or be online with a landing page, I would absolutely say be online with a landing page. I usually advise people that the risk of having your content on someone else's platform is if the platform goes away or if you decide to part ways with the platform, it's really difficult to take your content with you and to take the kind of credibility that you've built up through that platform with you. So if you know a little bit about the way that search engines work, they give what they call domain authority to different websites. And so if you have your own website, you can build domain authority on your website. But if you're building a landing page on, say, I won't name drop any platform. So I say, if you're building your website on another platform and that platform has domain authority, which makes you searchable on that platform, then if that platform goes out of business, or if you decide to part ways with that platform, you've lost all of that credibility. You've lost all of that domain authority. authority, you've lost all of that search engine ranking. So again, if there's a choice between not having a web presence at all and having a landing page, definitely go with the landing page. Mm-hmm. However, as soon as possible, I would look into like web real estate that you can own that is tied to your brand, where you can build your own domain authority, and where, if you shut it down, it's because you want it shut down, not because someone else does.
Yes, definitely agree with that. And are there any like misconceptions about building and managing a website on a budget that you would like to address?
Yes, I feel like I could talk about this for the rest of the day. all the things. I would say the biggest ones are, and I feel like Black women specifically fall into this trap sometimes, where they're just like, I'm going to do it myself. And I understand that, because there are a lot of people, like whenever you start in business, as soon as you file with the Secretary of State or with, whoever you file your business license with, you start getting spam, because there are so many people just out here ready to take your money. And so as a business owner, you're just bombarded by people saying, hey, I can do this for you. Hey, I can do this for you. Hey, I can do this for you. And everything is dramatically overpriced. Like, I remember when I filed my Secretary of State filing, I think it was like $50 or something to file online. And I definitely got a very official looking letter from someone saying, oh, we'll file your Secretary of State filing for $150. You have to do it within 30 days. And you're just like if you didn't know any better, you would spend 3 times as much for something like that. And so I kind of get it, where people say, no, I don't trust any of these, these hucksters. They're out here trying to rip me off. I'll just do it myself. Or it can't be that hard. That's the first one. Like, it can't be that hard. You're just like, yeah, sure. Definitely not that hard. But there's a lot that goes into it. And I think people realize that very quickly. And then also that you can just set it and forget it. So you build a website, you put some stuff on it, and, you never have to touch it again. And that's where I see people kind of hit their downfall, like maybe about a year out or 2 years out, because they've made the website and they just haven't updated it. And then the performance just starts plummeting because it's essentially gone dormant, basically. And then kind of to go along with that, like, if you build it, they will come. So like, I made a website, people are going to be beating down my door to buy my products. And that is also not the case. So there's a little bit more work that kind of goes into it. And then I will close with one more. I meant to have 3, but it's going to be 4 today. So the fourth one would be that, so it's not, I'm trying to think how I want to say this. So like the opposite of if you build it, they will come, and like that not being true is that like nobody will ever come. Like it just takes too much work and too much time and too much involvement. And that's also not true. Like, I think that there's a lot to be said for consistency. So even if you are doing 1 thing or 2 things on your website consistently, you will see growth from that. And that's the one thing that I would tell people. Like, you don't have to be a web designer. You don't have to know what Figma is. You don't have to have $1 million worth of Adobe products. You don't have to have a whole staff of web designers. You can absolutely do it yourself and start small and start on a budget and still be successful. It will take time.
Definitely agree. And, one of the things that you help people do is show up professionally. And I think that's so important that you highlight that, because I want to talk about what it means and why it matters. So can you explain the role of a professional website in the success and growth of a business?
Sure. And first, I want to kind of talk about the word professional, because I know as people of color and as women, it's kind of wielded against us sometimes. And so I use the word professionally because a lot of people kind of have a general understanding or a shared understanding of what that means. But acknowledging that that can be weaponized against people, I just want to be clear that this isn't, don't show up authentically. This is, it's mainly showing up credibly. It's mainly showing up in a trustworthy way, in those ways that kind of, I won't say trick people's minds, but, to have people feel at ease when they're doing business with you, to say, okay, this is legit, kind of like naming my business Walton Birch. Same thing. So first, that's that little caveat about the word professional. But talking about professional websites, so a professional website is just one that that helps establish your brand, that helps to tell your story in the way that you want it to be told, and helps to tell your story consistently, and builds trust with your potential clients and customers and allies and partners and sponsors and all of those people. So that's what I mean by a professional website on the front end. And so on the back end, from my perspective, as like a tech nerd or a web nerd, is also a website that is solid and reliable and secure. So you're protecting customer information. The website has backups in place. There are contingency measures in place for when any number of things goes wrong. So there are a couple of different things that kind of go into it. So what does it look like to people on the front end? How does it help instill trust and credibility in your brand? But also, how do we make sure that it sticks around for a while, and that, it's not, people's information is not being scammed or skimmed off, and sold across the web to people. So that's what I mean by professional.
That is so true. Yeah, people. And I think a thing with that too is people, they judge your business, but then also like they think, I know with Blacks in Business, we had our website redone and people feel like we're a big old team. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's it. They're like, and then you got money. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The spam calls won't get any better because they'll just be like, oh, you can afford $10,000.
Right.
Like, can I?
That's the other side of that. Yeah.
But that's good. That's how you know. Like, that's how you know it's behaving as it should. And honestly, I think there's a lot that does to your confidence as a small business owner. Because when I was a solopreneur, even operating under this name, Walton Burge, I was not feeling it. I had imposter syndrome very much so. But when you show up seriously like that, when people take you seriously like that, you start feeling it. You're just like, absolutely, I'm the founder of Walton Burge. Yes, that's who I am, and it definitely boosts the self-esteem a little bit, and the confidence, associated with being the founder of that business.
I have my people call you people.
You're right? Exactly.
I love that. I love it. So, one of the things also people are thinking, okay, I know I can do it myself. They're thinking the budget. Like, what are some of those things to expect this? How much is this going to cost? So what are some of those common obstacles and challenges that entrepreneurs encounter when it comes to those budget constraints when they're building their website?
Oh, that's a question that I get a lot. And it's just because there are so many different ways, there are 10 million different ways to have a website. You could have a website that is part of a platform, or part of a marketplace. So think maybe like an Etsy or an Amazon where it's not, you don't pay for hosting, you don't pay for the domain name, you don't really pay for anything, but it's still technically a website, right? Or you can go completely self-hosted and, matrix style. You got a server in your garage somewhere cooled by water-cooled fans or some crazy stuff like that. Like, I don't even have that. Like, that's not even where I'm operating.
Yeah.
But not knowing, like, from a tech stack perspective, what you need to even set up a website is a huge challenge. And these platforms don't do a very good job of differentiating. And all of them have, like, completely unnecessary stuff in them. So when you're comparing, you're like, okay, is this $7 a month plan similar to the $73 a month plan? Like, what is the difference? And what do I need as a small business owner? And so one of the challenges is knowing even what you need and like what you need to be responsible for. And one of the traps I see that people kind of fall into sometimes is wanting to be a little too much budget conscious and ending up having to kind of, juggle plates or spin plates, to kind of keep everything held together. And so generally, as a rule, with web platforms, you can kind of get like the all-in-one experience where everything is handled. So the actual, like the domain registration, the hosting for the website, and then a website builder, like GoDaddy has a website builder. Elementor is like a third-party website builder for WordPress. So all of that stuff is built into one platform. And you can get those for a couple of different price points. Like I've seen them obviously as low as like $29 or $39 on Shopify. And as like, I think the highest that I've seen is probably WordPress.com, not the .org. The .com version of WordPress is actually one of the most expensive, kind of all included WordPress platforms that I've seen lately. But you get what you pay for. Everything is included. You don't have to worry about logging into different accounts to do the domain, into the hosting, into the, the website builder. You don't have to worry about any of that. But yeah, you really just have to kind of shop around and not pay for things like 3 years in advance. It's very tempting, and they try very hard to get you to pay for things.
Yes.
So don't do that. Like, I wouldn't even do it for a year. I would pay whatever the monthly fee is for a quarter or so. And then if you're just like, okay, this is good, then go for the discount. Because once you spend that year, like, you're in it for the year. And if you're not happy with it, you're in it. So
in it. I learned that 2020, what was it, 2021? I just went, what's the after COVID? It was like everything was good price. And I was like, I want a year, this, and this. In 2022, I quickly, no, we're not doing that this year.
Oh yeah, canceled all of them. Like, and I go month to month on some of them. Like, even with Zoom at this point, I'm like, I want to drop Zoom any day now. I just want options, because there are new things that come along, and business needs change all the time. And one of the things I fully did not expect was to go from a solopreneur to a small team. So it was just me. Just me as an individual to me plus 5 people. And like, there are some apps that are really good for solopreneurs that are not good for teams. And so I still, a year later, I'm rolling off of some of those apps because I paid a year up front. And so that's one of the lessons that I've learned as well.
That's noted. Definitely noted on that. Okay. So we've talked about the importance of having a website and having a professional website. Now let's talk about, because I always want to stress to people why this is important, but then what happens if you don't work on this? So what are some of the potential consequences or missed opportunities that entrepreneurs might face if they don't prioritize building a website?
So not having a website at all. Again, the biggest risk is just that other people online will tell your story for you, or will start marketing your product or service as if it's their product or service. And there's a huge risk of that these days. And a secondary risk, kind of like if you put up a website or you put up a landing page and you just kind of leave it there and you never update it, you really lose a bit of the momentum that you can get from search engines if your website is just kind of static. So it's one thing to have a website, like to actually be online and have a web presence. Another part of that is actually consistently updating that presence, whether that's, adding new products, if it's a product-based business, or adding new blogs or articles, or even really just updating the content on the pages from time to time. It's really important to do both of those things to stay relevant, to stay at the top of search engine results, and to kind of build credibility on that domain as well.
Catherine, do you have any, in your experience, or maybe with some of your clients, or just websites that you've seen online, any examples of stories of entrepreneurs who've really been able to do well on a budget and create a successful website?
Oh, absolutely. I have so many exampps. I'm trying to think of some really good ones who wouldn't mind me just blasting their information out there. Functional Fitwear. Her name, the client's name is Shani. Like, she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. I met her in the Goldman Sachs 1 Million Black Women program. And I have different clients that have kind of varying levels of wanting to be involved with websites. So she was she did a great job of educating herself on, what it meant to have a website, and, what she could do from a ownership perspective to kind of boost her website and get it out there. And she's gotten some very excellent, she has a very good product. It's a fitwear, size inclusive fitness wear. But, from the professional photos to the actual overhaul of the website, to optimizing the pages for SEO, to doing email marketing campaigns to increase engagement. Like, she's really just taken it up and run with it as an owner, to get the traction and engagement on her site. And I think that's really cool. Like, I love what she's done with the brand. And every time I go back and look at her site now, I'm like, oh, she added that, and that's really good to see. She's like, okay, she feels empowered to update her own website, or I get her emails and I'm like, oh, cool. I got her, I got an email from her. That means she's doing the email marketing. And so I'm super proud of her. I just want to shout her out. I'm just going to say it, functionalfitwear.com. Like, please go check her website out, because she's really killing it. She is smashing it. And I would say that was one of my biggest successes recently, because when I started with her, she was starting from a place where her website wasn't working and someone had like installed some pretty bad code on it. So we had to start from a place of like damage control on the site. So for it to be turned around to what it is now is a huge victory, for everybody involved. So I'm super proud of her and super excited about that. And I think that's one of them. And there are a couple of more that I can name, but their sites haven't launched yet. So ask me again in like a month.
Okay. Well, actually, and y'all, I'll actually put the link to that website in the show notes so people can go check it out. So that's great. And it makes me think about, even when I first started my website, I built it myself on WordPress because it was not like Squarespace and all these other platforms were not around at that time. And I remember I was just trying to figure out how to put this one picture up. It took me hours to make it not pixelated. It was crazy. But I think the fact that I began to know the basics of doing a website was really important for, actually like the process if something went wrong. So for you, like, what do you say to someone is saying like, I don't have the budget, but I might, stretch myself thin, try to figure out who I can hire to do it. But what's the importance of the benefits of actually doing it yourself and learning along the way?
Oh, that's a great question. And I actually get that question a lot because sometimes when people come to me, like they don't even have enough budget to hire me. And I don't want to leave them out and just say, well, like, sorry, too bad.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of different ways that we're solving this challenge at Walton Birch. And so the first would be that we have just basic starter packages. So like if your website is not online at all, like if you don't have a website at all, or if your website has been hacked or it's just not functional or it never launched, we are absolutely going to get you back to functionality. Like I fully believe that a website is an important part of being successful in business. So whatever we need to do to get you back online, I'm committed to doing that. And then from there, what I do from a strategy perspective is just provide a strategy for you that I tell people the same way I'm talking to you, like, hey, one very important thing is that there's a minimum of 300 words on every page if you want to get good search engine rankings. And then you have to link these pages to each other to help provide context for the search engine, right? Or you have to compress your images down to a smaller size so that your pages load quickly, or make sure that you check, the mobile responsiveness of your website. And these are things that people can do themselves, or at least keep an eye on for themselves. And so if they get to the point where they have a website and I'm like, okay, here's what we can do until we can get to the next level, like post a blog or an article once a month, just do it. And I will actually include those blogs and articles in the package with them just so that they have them. This is not another barrier that they have to deal with down the road. Like, here are the 6 articles, post one once a month, like hit update, add something to the website once a month. And then always provide just unlimited email support. Like anytime after you've worked with me, you can email me or you can email my team, and we're happy to help you out with figuring out some of those issues and things that you're working on for yourself. But another thing that we're in the process of launching, I technically already launched it at the at the Truist Foundation Fellowship Summit, but it's an internship program. So when I worked in corporate America, my last job was in talent acquisition. And so I saw firsthand some of the challenges that women and people of color candidates experience trying to get high paying jobs in tech or in operations or in, executive jobs and things like that. And so a lot of those opportunities are based in having paid resume experience using the skills that you're trying to get a job in. And so as soon as I was able to hire somebody, I hired an intern to literally give them paid experience in web development or paid experience in marketing or paid experience in project management or, any of those skills that will help people get high paid jobs. And so I was calling that program the Momentum Internship Program, but I think it might be taken. So the name is TBD. But the concept is that those interns are helping the small business owners who also need to gain momentum in their marketing. They're helping them. They work together to do a campaign, a social media campaign or a content marketing campaign or, SEO product description updates together. So it's no cost to the small business owner, to the entrepreneur, and then either a sponsor, like we've gotten the internship sponsored in the past, or Walton Birch pays the intern for the internship. So that is another option for people that are just like, okay, cool. I don't have the budget for a full project right now. But
Yeah.
if you're willing to help somebody get some kind of on the job skills that they can then use to get into another job, then they can help you to build momentum in your marketing as well.
I love that. That is so nice. Yeah,
I'm
thank
very
you.
excited about it. I don't know if you can
Yeah,
tell.
yes, I love that. And I saw your video where you were actually also promoting that you were launching that program. So I love
Oh
the
yeah.
concept. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be official soon, as soon as I figure out the whole
Mhm.
name thing.
I get it, love it. And so it makes me think about when it comes to, okay, that process of handing it all fully to someone else. Do you think that there's a stage when that happens, or is it a type of website that someone has where they're like, okay, eventually you get to the point where you can no longer run it?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Some websites are inherently more complicated than others.
Mm-hmm.
There are most of the kind of platform type websites are built for very basic websites. So if you think about a Shopify, WordPress, even with WooCommerce, Webflow, Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, like all of those. I don't know if Weebly's still a thing, but all of the ones, like they have a set, like there's a type of website that works, that is ideal for those platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so once you start expanding outside of that functionality, you either have to do it with like paid add-ons, which starts getting expensive very quickly, or with custom code, which is also expensive and a little bit difficult to maintain. So if you have a basic website on a platform that is designed for that platform, doesn't have any custom code, any custom integrations, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
fine. You can manage that by yourself. It is actually designed for you to be able to manage it by yourself. When you start building on those custom integrations, when you start putting in that custom code, unless you plan on becoming a developer, that's when it's quickly going to kind of like outgrow your scope and ability. And that's where you need to look at, having somebody else to do the maintenance on that, or moving to a platform where those things are included and you can manage it yourself. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense. And I laugh because you said, is Weebly still a thing? It's so hilarious because my chief of growth, we were just trying to do something like another website, and he was like, Weebly. I'm like, no. No,
Like,
no shade
I
to
know I
Weebly, but
haven't
it
even
is still
heard
around.
anybody. I'm literally, if Weebly still exists, I haven't seen their site. So somebody please like hit me up and let me know.
It's
I just
still
don't see them
around.
very often if they are still around. Like I'm constantly surprised at how well these platforms are adapting, because
Yes,
it used to just be like WordPress, and WordPress is not for everyone.
it is not. It's like that's what I have for WordPress. But it's that's all I know. That's all we knew. So when we
Yeah,
started.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I think that there are platforms that are much better for other things. Like
Yes.
people ask me all the time about Shopify, but if you are like a B2B service-based business and you don't have any products, like you have one ebook that's like $5.99, Shopify is overkill. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't really need non-e-commerce businesses. Like if you're not selling products, or at least like a lot of digital products like courses or downloads or something like that, then you don't need Shopify. And I'm not going to recommend that you have Shopify. So
Mm-hmm.
each platform kind of has its sweet spot and its strong spot. So you can't blanket say, oh yeah, everybody needs to have a website on Shopify, because that's absolutely not true. Or similarly, nobody needs to have a site on WordPress, because there are absolutely some people who benefit from having the flexibility and kind of
Mm-hmm.
the open code structure of WordPress. Because once you start adding in these special features and functionality, it can get really expensive. And WordPress
Mm-hmm.
helps you to kind of keep those costs down. But the risk
Yes,
of that is that like there's just so much more maintenance on it. And so if you're
it
okay
is.
with that trade-off, then WordPress is going to be a good platform for you.
Yeah. And speaking of that, so people who are listening, of course, we're talking to entrepreneurs. They're in different industries, but from those industries maybe that you deal with the most, what platforms do you recommend for certain things?
E-commerce, I would have to say Shopify. Just I'm a huge fan of Shopify. If you sell
Mm-hmm.
a product, a thing that people like, especially consumers, can put in their hand. If you sell soap, shoes, t-shirts, like
Mm-hmm.
posters, like jewelry, like purses, like I'm gonna go
Yes.
down the whole list. Books, if you sell things that people can hold in their hands and buy like one at a time or two at a time, Shopify, you cannot go wrong with Shopify. love that the very basic plan for Shopify includes a lot of extremely robust marketing features, so that you wouldn't need a separate email marketing platform, and you don't need separate integrations for the Google Merchant Center or for Facebook or for Instagram or for TikTok or for Pinterest or, things like, or the shipping profiles. So I think you can't go wrong with Shopify. And similarly, people who are migrating from platforms like Etsy and Amazon and eBay and like similar marketplace platforms like that to their own standalone site, I can't go wrong with Shopify. Like Shopify makes the transition from those platforms to your own website seamless. So if you're just like, listen, I got 10 minutes to make this happen. I don't want to move over a lot of information. They make that very easy. So if you're in that kind of narrow swatch of people, can't go wrong with Shopify. However, I saw today, Wix has a very robust e-commerce kind of offering. It is more expensive than Shopify. So if you're budget conscious, I still say go with Shopify. But if you're already on Wix and you're just like, but I need to switch over to e-commerce, Wix actually has a pretty decent e-commerce add-on now that I'm pretty happy with for people that are on Wix, because moving a website from one platform to another is a lot of work. And so I would never just be like, you know what you should do for the next 6 days or, 6 weeks or whatever, just move all your stuff. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I promise. I would never just say all of that. So if you are on Wix and you have a static website and you're like, well, I would love to sell something, they make it very easy to kind of transition into e-commerce. However, I do have a little bit of heartburn about the nickel and diming that Wix does. So if you end up having like a team of people that you need to work with and they need to have email addresses and multiple domains and things like that, like the cost on that can get out of hand pretty quickly. So, but generally, I wouldn't necessarily paint everybody in a category into a platform other than, like I said, Shopify. I think if you're a solopreneur selling something, or if you have maybe a team of up to 3 people and you're selling a product that consumers especially can have in their hand and buy like 1 or 2 or 3 of at a time, can't go wrong with Shopify. That's a certainty. But other than that, it depends. And I know that's a terrible answer.
No, it's good. It's good. It's people need to know that was the site. It wasn't Weebly. It was Wix was the site that they mentioned. Yeah, I got the two mixed up.
Wix is trying. Like Wix is making a comeback. I think. Yeah, they used to be for kind of static websites. The fact that they even have an e-commerce offering is interesting. And one of the drawbacks I've seen of Shopify is that like, you can't really have content robust websites on Shopify. So like if you have a whole lot of content, you do better to have a website elsewhere and then to put a shop, like to have a shop on like a subdomain or something if you want to keep your content. But Wix actually kind of seamlessly, you can have a whole other website and a store, which is why I was like, okay, well, that's interesting, because I've seen a lot of use cases recently where people have had websites forever. Like I have a client that's had a website since like 2008 or 2009, and she had it on WordPress. And she wanted to move her products to Shopify, but if she took the whole domain from WordPress to Shopify, she would lose all of the domain authority and the content that went along with it. So we ended up having to put her Shopify store on a subdomain. So it's like, customerwebsite.com, and now it's like shop.customerwebsite.com, just so we didn't lose the domain authority. And so now it's complicated because her store is managed through Shopify and her website is still managed through WordPress. So it's a little bit more complicated, but, to keep the domain authority, it was absolutely essential that she not like basically erase all of those years of work.
Yeah. Same. And so what would you say are when it comes to building a website, just depending on maybe an e-commerce or maybe it may be a service-based business, what are some of those pages that you need to have, those first few pages you're like, okay, you need to have this on your website? What would you say those are?
Okay. So going back to our landing page example, if you have one page, a single page on your website, it needs to have like an About Us section. So like, who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? It needs to have a Contact Us section. How do I get in touch with you? Like, what is the thing that you're offering here? Is it a consultation? Is it a discovery call? Is it a free ebook? Is it a, email newsletter? Like, how can people sign up, schedule, book, buy that types of section. I'm trying to think what else would go on a landing page. Well, yeah, just information about the offer, information about you and the business, you or the business if the business is not you, and then contact information. But if you have a multi-page website, then the homepage is kind of like a preview of all of those. So one section, I generally do a 1-to-1 rule. So one section on the homepage should correlate to every other page on your website. And part of that is for the whole SEO thing, because internal linking is very important. And part of that is because of the pages that people might scroll all the way down, the homepage is usually the one. So you really just want to give them options for the information that they're looking for. So are they looking to find out more about your company? Are they looking to find out more about your products? Are they looking to contact you to ask you questions? Are they media or press inquiries and whatnot? So homepage has like little snippets of all of that and link people to other parts of the site so that they're not just kind of surfing up and down the navigation. But still, homepage for sure. Like an About Us page, just to tell people about, you as a founder, your company, the brand of your company, the products that you sell, the services that you provide. Contact us page again. And then, if there is a shop, like if there are products, I would have a dedicated like landing page for the shop that's not just a list of products. I think people don't do that very often. It's literally just a list of products. I would make it a landing page that actually has words that tell people about the products, not just a product listing. So that's important. As a shop page. And then, so I said home, about us, contact us, shop page. And then like, if you have blogs and articles, a landing page, again, for blogs and articles or videos these days. A lot of people have videos, but still landing page. So there's a page with some text that explains the categories that these videos or blogs or articles are broken out into. So that's my quick 5-page rundown.
Yeah,
and of course, again, it depends. Like sites aren't just identical. So depending on the site, there might be different pages.
And so we also have touched on this just a little bit, but I know that one of the things that you believe is that entrepreneurs should have an e-commerce presence. So let's talk about that. Why is having an e-commerce presence crucial for entrepreneurs, and how can it enhance their overall business success?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I love talking about this because people think of e-commerce as products, like actual products that you have in hand and, that you could buy one of, like books and t-shirts and candles and shoes and things like that. But e-commerce looks a little bit different for service-based businesses. It's still e-commerce. And I call it e-commerce is because for me on the back end, there's structure that goes behind it. So you're not like somebody wouldn't go to your website, for instance, and see, there's a ebook here for download, and click on the link to download and then get a pop-up that says, hey, cash at me $20. Like that's just not, that's not a good way to do business.
Not at all.
So behind the scenes, that same type of security and encryption and the checkout process needs to happen for that. So anytime you as a service-based business or as a service provider or a product-based business are collecting information about your customers or clients, whether that's their email address, mailing address, or business address, credit card information, even their booking information, all of that, needs to be secure. It needs to follow the laws for data that apply to your state or to your country or whatever jurisdiction that you're in. And it needs to be automated. Like your website essentially needs to be another employee of your business. So instead of creating a form where they fill out the form and then you might get an email about it, but then you have to go to the email and copy and paste and send an update. And you're also filtering out the spam and then you're doing the back and forth for the scheduling. That's not really helpful. That's when a website is not really helpful for your business. And so e-commerce as a package has all of that together. So when you go to an online store, you click add to cart, it adds to cart. You click checkout, it collects the billing information, shipping information, credit card information. processes payment, sends you like a update, a confirmation email, updates about your order, shipping information, all of that. And that's what we think of when we think of e-commerce. But that same level of encryption and security and automation needs to happen for service-based businesses and service providers as well. And that's why I call it e-commerce. And so everybody's selling something, whether it's the amount that you pay for an appointment, or the amount that you pay for consultation, or the amount that you pay for a download. Everybody's selling something online. And so if you can think about it in the same way that product sellers, think about their products, selling their products online, then you can create a system that works for you as a store owner. And I say store owner, I'm using air quotes. You can create a system that works for you, and a system that is seamless and secure for your customers and clients.
Oh, that's so well said. I love that. And so when it comes to marketing those things that you provide on your e-commerce website, do you have any tips and strategies for entrepreneurs to attract those customers and increase traffic to their e-commerce websites?
Yes. And this is what I tell everybody. I know it's really hard to hear, but I think consistency is the most important thing. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, you absolutely need paid ads. Oh, you absolutely need SEO optimization. Oh, you absolutely need paid search or whatever. I think consistency, you can grow organically without any of those paid mediums successfully if you show up consistently, if you are updating your products consistently or adding new products consistently, if you are adding new articles and blogs to your website, if you are emailing your customers and clients or texting them consistently, if you do any one or all of those things consistently, you will see growth. You don't need to spend all this money. You don't need to even really spend a ton of time, because a lot of that stuff can be scheduled if you can do it kind of in batches. But I think consistency is the most important thing for growth for a standalone website where, as a marketplaces have kind of built-in discovery, but you have to do a little bit more work to promote your own website. But I absolutely think it is doable. Even if you only do it once a month and you focus on once a month, you will see growth. I mean, you may not see viral growth, but you will see growth and you will see outputs from that. So a little bit of patience, a little bit of help from people like me. And I'm not saying I'm the only one that can do it. I am happy to refer you to other resources, that can help you with anything from copywriting to designing social media posts to, creating animations or videos or things like that. Because we don't do everything. We have a very narrow niche of what we do, but we're happy to provide resources to help you be consistent, because I know personally that consistency is the most important thing of all of it for growth.
Yes. Well, speaking of what you do, because today is all about you and your expertise, let's talk about the work that you are doing. So can you share how you and Walton Birch are helping entrepreneurs and business owners with their website needs, as well as e-commerce needs, and just kind of discuss your offers and services?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we have a very narrow focus in terms of website development and with marketing. And our offerings fall loosely into three categories. So new websites. If you don't have a website at all, you want to get online to start promoting your business, we can help you get online with a new website, even if that is a landing page. We're happy to we'll meet you where you are from a new website perspective. We also work with people who, we call it kind of remediation, or, I call it unbotched. If you watch that show on E! called Botched. So there are a lot of people out here that are providing kind of not great services, not great quality services. And sometimes that means that you end up with websites that break or that never launch at all. So, or websites that after a year or two, the performance and engagement just kind of drops off and you just really don't you don't know what's going on, or websites that are outdated. Really, any of those performance or design or optimization challenges that kind of go along with websites, we help fix those, get you back online, get your website back up to the performance that you need it to be at for you to be successful in business. And then the third category of websites would be migrations. So if you're migrating from a marketplace platform like an Etsy or an Amazon to your own website, we help bring all that content over, do all of the reformatting that has to be redone for that to happen, modernize the website, and then to help you promote it. So to help you build momentum on the new platform, to help you establish organic kind of search discovery and growth that way as well. And so our marketing services also kind of revolve around websites. So we do email marketing, content marketing, which includes blogs and articles and a little bit of social media. Like, we don't really offer social media as a standalone offering. It's really social media in the context of a website, which makes more sense for product-based businesses a lot of times. But yeah, so content marketing, email marketing, SEO, like organic SEO optimization. I feel like I'm missing one, but yeah, so any and all marketing services that go along with websites, because we are experts in websites.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Catherine, what do you think are the benefits of, working with someone like you and outsourcing maybe, or just working with you to figure it all out versus trying to do it on your own?
Oh, yeah. So doing it on your own can absolutely be overwhelming. And I'm not saying that it can't be done. I actually have several clients where I was just like, you don't really need me. I'm going to set this up for you.
That's nice.
But after that, I am confident that you got this. Like Miss Shani of Functional Fitwear, she was just like, okay, I'll try that. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just check in 6 months or so. So like, absolutely not everybody is going to need, ongoing help with their websites. Hiring somebody like me can help you get up and running a lot faster. We do websites for a living. Like, we can literally get a website up and running in 30 days. Not all websites, I will say that. Not all websites. But the really simple ones, we can get them up and running very quickly. And we obviously know what it takes for a website to be successful. So as you're structuring those brand new websites, especially, we have a lot of input on strategy and things that you can do to help promote the website once you've launched. And our brand new, currently Momentum, soon to be named something else program, where you can help a young job seeker get some skills that will help them get a high paying job, and they can help you build momentum in your marketing as well. So it doesn't just help me. It doesn't just help my business. I think it really just helps those job seekers, and it helps people who need momentum in their marketing and just don't, they don't have like an unlimited budget to make that happen, or they're willing to put in a little bit of elbow work to kind of get it off the ground. I think those are the types of people that would really benefit from the Momentum program. And I just want to make sure that people know that exists, because there's not a lot of people out there that are doing that.
Wonderful. And Catherine, so for you, what has been some of those helpful tools and resources that have helped you throughout your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, yes. I have a whole list of these as well. I can talk about like the mistakes that I've made. That I would say the whole not buying annual licenses up front, like, don't do that. Unless you have proven it for at least a quarter, for 2 or 3 months, like, don't buy a whole year up front. That really helps to control costs and allows you to kind of eliminate dead weight of platforms that aren't serving you as your business changes, because it does change very quickly in the first few years. So, keeping the cost kind of low, even though the monthly subscriptions tend to be a little bit higher than the annual subscriptions, you really just don't want to be stuck with an annual subscription that you're not using, because then the whole cost is sunk. So that's one kind of tip that I would say, but also automation. So anything that helps you to automate processes and make communicating easier. One of the biggest downfalls that I've seen specifically for service-based businesses is the lack of follow-up or follow-through. If you meet with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I would love to work with you. And you're like, okay, cool. And you send them a quote like, hey, that's going to be $1 million. And then they're just like, absolutely not. Get somebody else to do it. And then you literally never talk to them again.
Yeah.
There's not an opportunity. There's not an opportunity to have a conversation about it. There's not an opportunity to address their concerns. There's not an opportunity to even restructure the deal. So follow up, and then use tools that help to make that follow-up automated. I use Calendly for scheduling, and Calendly has like workflows embedded, which allow for some of the meeting follow-ups to make sure that people show up to meetings on time. Super important. for service-based businesses, that has been a game changer, lifesaver. And also because Calendly was founded here in Atlanta, I will forever, actually, I think Calendly still is in Atlanta, forever be diehard fan of Calendly as a resource for automating, for doing automatic scheduling first and foremost, or self-scheduling, and then the follow-ups that kind of go along with that. And then again, along the same lines of looking credible and professional, get you a CRM or some sort of invoicing tool where you can at least put your logo on the invoice. And, if people pay you on a monthly basis, that payment happens automatically, because another thing we don't want to do is chase down people for payments. So really, we just want the process to be seamless and smooth, and just, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Nobody's getting any surprises. Nobody's left out in the dark. So any platform that does, types of automations or workflows. And like I said, Calendly is my big go-to. I also recently began using Asana for project management as my team has started growing. And I love Asana because I'm still a small team. So instead of like the price per license, you're allowed to have like guests. And so people that are part of my organization, kind of like clients or, contractors that might be working with my organization, can use those guest licenses, which doesn't like overburden my budget from a license perspective. So Calendly, Asana are my two big ones because I use them every day. But I also like Slack as well. So because it helps with collaboration and keeping everybody on the same page. So I guess those would be my top three. Yeah.
Love that. And one of the things you mentioned earlier, and you also just mentioned, is that you were expecting to be a one-person team for a lot longer than you were. So now you have a small team. Like, what do you think took you to that next level?
The influx of clients I got after the Goldman Sachs program. Like my client portfolio literally tripled. It literally tripled. I was like, I got enough clients that one person can handle. And then I had more clients than one person could physically handle, working 24/7. So it was absolutely imperative to hire additional people. And, I'm essentially a web developer. I'm essentially a web developer. And so I thought that, it was just like, oh, okay, well, I need to hire some web developers. But then the people management part ended up taking a lot more time. And then responding to clients ended up taking a lot more time. And clients were frustrated because there's so many of them. There's one of me and there's a whole bunch of them. And so they were messaging me like, I emailed you and I haven't heard back from you. So my very next hire was a client manager whom I love dearly. Like Lexa is probably my favorite person in the world right now because she's like the best client manager and she has got the communication part down pat. So they email her all types of things, all hours of the day. And she's like, I got that. And I'm like, look at that. Look at me, not responding to email.
It helps.
So I was not prepared for that. And I told somebody the other day, like, run your business as if it's going to triple overnight, because that is literally how it happened. It did not happen slowly. It happened over the span of about 8 weeks. And so I lost a lot. Yeah. Like going from one person to even 4 people over the span of 8 weeks dramatically messed up. Like my pricing model wasn't even right. So I had priced out a bunch of projects as a solopreneur and was operating at a massive deficit for a solid 60 days. So if you do plan on scaling, definitely, plan for that as you're kind of doing resource planning for those projects, so that you don't lose a lot of money for 2 months. But yeah, like just be open-minded about things changing in business. And, I think that when those opportunities come up, you'll be a lot better off to, kind of seamlessly move into those opportunities. Because for me, being an employer, like it makes entrepreneurship even better. I understand that there are challenges around managing people, but being able to, for somebody to say, oh yeah, like I'm able to stay at home with my kid now. It's just like, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Like now it's not just about me. It's really just about other people who would otherwise have, challenges having full-time jobs or jobs where they had to like work outside the home. So being an employer has just taken like my everything to the next level for me. But yeah, so just being prepared for like exponential growth in your pricing, in your processes, in your systems is really important.
And I love that. Run your business as if it's going to triple overnight. That is a quote. Love that.
Because it did. It literally did. Well, not overnight, but 8 weeks is like a very short amount of time.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That is amazing.
Thank you so much. Let me count these gray hairs that I got.
It's all for a good cause.
It was so stressful. I literally did not think my business was going to make it through. I didn't think my business was going to make it. I was like, I think all of these people are just going to quit like at the same time because I can't serve them all at the same time. But thankfully, like I said, with an excellent client manager, she just hit the ground running, and she's just been like a tremendous help, and like just salvaged everything. The communication part was so important, and I had underestimated how important it was before, and she's really helped with that critical part of keeping customers happy.
I love that. And how has that like shaped you as a leader? Like what did that moment force you to become as a leader, and then how have you changed?
Yeah, so before that, I called myself a founder and principal consultant, and now I am confident in calling myself a founder and CEO because I am peopling.
Yes.
I never saw myself as a CEO until I started managing people because I'm like, this is hard. Like hiring is a lot. Managing people is a lot. Like making sure that they are happy and fulfilled and, have all the things that they need to be productive and, they're on board with the mission and vision of the company and doing things in a way that's consistent with our brand and our values. Like that is hard work. And so like just after almost a year of doing that, I'm like, absolutely. I'm a CEO. I'm a founder. I'm a CEO. I'm a principal. I'm all of that. Like that is what I'm doing now. And that was the biggest kind of mind shift change for me. It's just feeling that CEO and now just, growing into that because I'm not perfect at that by any stretch of the imagination. And I understand why there are whole HR teams at corporations now. It's just because it's a lot to kind of manage. So that's where I'll be growing going forward is, figuring out the HR and making sure that there's a system in place to support employees and interns because we expect to have probably 3 or 4 more interns this year in addition to the 2 we've already had. So just providing additional support and structure for them and having leadership, just keeping everybody in line with the mission, vision, and values of the company and keeping everybody happy and productive. So,
yes. I love that. I love that for you. I love that growth. And it's so amazing to hear that and just how like you maintain. So I love that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And now let's dive into a little bit of not so serious business around, a little fun. So if you had to create a slogan for your life, what would it be?
Ooh, a slogan for my life. That's a good one. I have a couple that come to mind. There's one that I have that's kind of like outward facing, and I felt so passionate about it that I actually like made it into a sticker and a t-shirt because, everybody has to have more. Everybody has to have a side hustle, even if you are an entrepreneur.
Yes, that's true.
So like I love to support other people in business. And I know more than anybody, I think, how hard women and specifically Black women are kind of toiling unseen as entrepreneurs and also in the workplace, like in corporate America, like they're toiling away unseen. And a lot of times when, we do get the recognition kind of that we deserve, it's because we are like stellar, like just outstanding stars. There's not a day we can show up and be mediocre and get kind of recognized for our contributions. And so one slogan that I have kind of outwardly when I see people online that are just like, hey man, I'm out here doing this. I'm struggling. I really hope it pays off is like, we see you, sis. Like we see you, and that's one of the things that, I kind of wish that people had said to me is I was struggling what it felt like invisibly when I was growing my business. And so I make sure that, I say that to other people now, like, we see you, like we see you out here struggling, it's, you're not alone. We appreciate you and what you do and what you contribute. So that would be one of them outwardly. I guess like a actual slogan for my life. I can't think of the name of the phrase. Maybe like a mulligan. I don't know. It's like a golf phrase where it's like a do-over because there have been so many times where I've just had to start over, like from scratch. And it's just, I say all the time, you have to start somewhere because like you can absolutely feel overwhelmed. And like, especially when you're at those points where you feel like you have to start over and you've spent a lot of time working on something or developing something and it just doesn't pan out the way that you intended on it panning out. And, or something really bad happens and you're just like, okay, well, I'm back at zero. How do I go up from here? And you know, my phrase would be to start somewhere. Like you have to start somewhere, like pick one thing that's going to get you closer to where you want to be and do that thing. And if you don't have energy to do anything else, do that one thing today and maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after that. And, you know, there are times where you're building momentum and you have a lot more energy to kind of put into it and do those things to get you to that next level. But when you're feeling low and you're just like, I don't know if I can do this today, you have to have that one thing that's just like, what's going to get me closer to where I want to be.
That's powerful. I love that. And what's the most unexpected or amusing source of inspiration you've had for a business idea?
So during the pandemic, I have a twin brother and I have a younger sister. And they're both like creatives. Like I don't consider myself to be a creative compared to them because they are both extremely talented artists and makers. And so both of them were in like not great geographic locations during the pandemic. Like my sister was in Korea when the pandemic started. She was teaching English, right? And my brother was in New York City. And things in New York City were not going well at the beginning.
I'm here, so I know.
Yeah. So my brother, they both moved back here to Atlanta and we're just kind of like, okay, well, the job market's not doing great. And I just picked up and literally moved all my stuff across either state or international lines. What am I going to do now? And so I was like, well, you know, I make websites. Maybe I can help them do something, you know, maybe I can help them channel that creative energy into a business. And so I actually started like my one and only side hustle. I'm not a side hustle type person. I do technically still have this side hustle. It isn't doing much, but I started it for my brother and my sister and we had to come up with a name for it. So we're Catherine, Kevin, and Kamala. And I was like, okay, how can I get these three names together into something that sounds really cool and, you know, that we could use as a brand name, like it's pretty distinctive. And I came up with an idea called Mikaave. So it's Mikaave. And I think, honestly, that's the coolest thing I've done so far. It's got very high cool factor. I can't wait till I can kind of get stabilized in Waltonburg so I can go back and do that as my little side hustle project. But yeah, like I think the coolness factor on that is very, very high. And I would love to just get back to that someday. But I'm very proud of myself for being cool and creative on that one.
Yes. I love that. And I love that you built that with your siblings. That's always so, I love that. That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
Oh, that's a loaded question. To be Black in business is to be, I hate the word resilient, but it is resilient. Like we get knocked down so often because people's idea of what an entrepreneur is or what an entrepreneur should look like or what a startup looks like often does not match what we are, who we are, and how we show up in business. But, you know, to be Black in business is to be resilient, is to come back, make comebacks all of the time, and to always be looking for ways to kind of find back doors and trap windows, you know, open windows and things like that in order to be successful. You know, and to know that there's always something bigger, you know, like there are a lot of people that do a lot of trend chasing, but I've met some very talented, very insightful people. They're just like, okay, there's a bigger picture here. You know, it may not be this grant, it may not be this funder, it may not be this sponsor, you know, but there are people out there that will support me, you know, and I will relentlessly go after those people who can support me. So to be Black in business is to be resilient, is to be relentless. And then to use the quote from my favorite quote from Stacey Abrams, you know, being a Black woman is not a deficit. And she says, you know, like, you know, when I show up as a Black woman and I'm successful, it means I'm relentless. It means I'm persistent and it means that I'm smart. So that's what that means to me.
Oh, Yes, I felt that.
I'm gonna put it on a shirt one day.
Yes. Yes. This has been so amazing, Catherine. You have given us so much insight and so many resources and tools. People are going to want to know how can they connect with you, find you, and support you. So please do share.
Yeah. So my website is waltonbirch.com, and there will be updates to that soon. We're adding our internship page and just updating the site generally. So look for that over the next couple of months. Also, we are on LinkedIn. So Walton Birch has a company page on LinkedIn. Also, I am on LinkedIn as an individual. But the best way to reach us is probably the website, which is waltonbirch.com.
Perfect. Catherine, thank you so much for being on the Black to Business podcast. This has been amazing, and thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
And that brings us to the end of another insightful episode of the Black to Business podcast. I hope you found tremendous value in today's discussion on building and managing a business website on a budget with our guest, Catherine Smith of Walton Birch. As we wrap up, I want to recap some of the key takeaways from this episode. Catherine shared the importance of knowing what you need on your website and some ways to troubleshoot. I also love that she gave us some insight on what pages are necessary for your website. We also explore practical tips for establishing a polished online presence, including affordable design resources and techniques. Catherine even highlighted the significance of having an e-commerce presence and provided strategies to attract customers and increase traffic to your online store without spending a fortune. You can dive deeper into the resources and insights shared by Catherine by visiting blacktobusiness.com/155. There you'll find additional information, links to Walton Birch, and valuable resources to help you build and manage your business website on a budget. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the Black to Business community. We appreciate your support and listenership, and I will chat with you next week, same time, same place.